Greetings. Before I begin, I'd like to show you my mom, my sister, and my aunt who are going to be here helping me with my speech as my audience. Alright, these are my speaking notes. Both sides on two little papers. And I'd like to begin. Alright, so my name is Irina Falconi, and I am a professional tennis player. I've been playing for 5 years, traveled all over the country, and all over the entire world actually, and Japan has definitely got to be one of my favorite countries in the world. And today I'm going to inform you a little bit about the etiquette of Japan, even though to most people Japan is very well known for its fast trains, its sushi, its anime. All that's really great, and by no means am I taking that away, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the etiquette and the traditions and their customs and their manners that just really make me respect their culture like no other. Alright, so I'd like to start off with some kind of interesting facts that may shock you. Okay, so Japan's national sport is sumo wrestling. To some of you that may seem a little unorthodox, am I right? So it actually started off in the 8th century as a prayer for a fruitful rice harvest, okay? And it later became into a sport where two men in a circular ring are actually trying to push each other, big men might I add, are trying to push each other until any part of the body that is not the bottom of their foot is outside the circle. So it sounds fun. Never seen it, but it sounds like a lot of fun. Alright, so any of you guys here like sushi? Okay, so sushi, as some of you may know, it's been very popular here in the US, and it's got to be Japan's biggest cultural export. And it's actually been around since the 8th century, so even though it's only been a couple decades that it's been in the US, it's been around for a very long time. So if you're interested in wanting to get some sushi, there is a restaurant in Tokyo. Okay, it's called Suki Yahashi Haro. Okay, and a 15-minute meal can run you at about $300 to $500. All right, and that is from my third site, which is Japanese Culture Facts. Okay, and speaking of seafood, okay, so I don't know if any of you guys here have heard of the fish blowfish, okay? So it's one of the most dangerous seafood dishes out there, okay? So a chef is supposed to train for about 11 years before he's able to serve other people, and he's also supposed to eat his own fugu, as they call it in Japan. Okay, the reason why it's so dangerous, this blowfish, is because if any part of the poisonous fish is eaten, you will become very nauseous, you will have dizziness, you will have difficulty breathing, and finally you will die from asphyxiation. So for all you daredevils out there, just please be careful and just know what you're getting into. Okay, even though there's no antidote, you can empty out your stomach, you can be fed activated charcoal and put on life support, you know. So just in case you're wondering, you know, there is somewhat of a cure, okay? So let's say that you want to go with some of your friends to have some sushi or some blowfish, and I think it would be pretty fun to feel like you're embracing the culture and knowing what you're doing at a restaurant, don't you think? So let's start with the basics, the greeting. When you're greeting someone, it is very customary to bow. The deeper the bow, the more respect it shows to the other person. And even though when you're bowing, even though you may seem that you're supposed to look down, it's very respectful to continue to have eye contact. Okay, so remember, when you bow, continue to have eye contact. And that is from my second source, which is the Cultures of Japan. Okay, and it's a very reliable source. You can find anything from any culture and any country on there. So, moving on. Okay, so let's say you go to the restaurant. All right, it's very traditional to start the meal with the phrase "itadakimasu." Okay, so that means I gratefully receive this meal. That was taken from the second site as well, Cultures of Japan. Okay, so that was just food. When you're wanting to start drinking, make sure that you don't say cheers. The correct word is kanpai, okay? And make sure you don't serve yourself. Make sure you serve others before you do it. And last but not least, do not tip while you're in Japan. It's not seen as a respectful thing to do, and instead of tipping, it's actually very traditional to say go shisasma daishita. Okay, so please don't make fun of my accent. I'm just trying to learn a little bit of Japanese to try and keep up with them, since, you know, they only are ranked some of the highest in literacy, almost at 100%. That is also from Cultures of Japan. So, let's get to education. Alright, so from a very young age, a child is actually taught the role of a teacher. So a teacher will come in, greet the class, put a problem on the board, ask the class to solve it. When someone raises their hand, she will go over there and she will actually check their work. And if the student was correct, he will then stand up, become the teacher, and then so on and so forth. Everyone will continually grade each other and teach each other. So Japanese teachers believe that you will actually retain 90% of the information if you teach others. So I got that from cultures in Japan as well. And, you know, in the US, children are traditionally taught 26 letters. That's it. If you're in a Spanish country, it might be 27 to 33, nothing more. By the time you're 15, you know more than 1,000 characters in Japanese education system. And let me just go on with that. It's not just one writing system, by the way. It's actually 4. Okay, so the very first writing system is Romaji, which is the Romanized spelling used to translate Japanese. You have katakana, which are for foreign words and names like loan words and scientific terms. Then you have hiragana, which is native Japanese words. And last but not least, you have kanji, which are Chinese characters. And I got that information from the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. I'm sure you've heard of them. So, from everything that you've heard today, are you guys ready to get out of here and book some flights to Japan? Even though it may seem like a very strict country, you know, Japanese people are very aware that foreigners are not always going to understand their strict nuances, and, you know, they're going to understand that there's going to be some faux pas that happen, but as long as you're respectful, you're going to be just fine. Because I was in Japan just 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you firsthand that knowing these manners actually really impressed my Japanese host. So just remember, knowing a little etiquette before your trip to Japan, rather to any country, will always give you a huge return. So pack your bags, make sure you have a list of do's and don'ts, don't matter where you're going, especially to Japan. And as the people in Japan like to say, arigato gozaimasu. Thank you so much for watching.